Gee, I missed the first. I messed up my recording, so I'm doing this a little bit backwards. But um, this is about what is your utopia, and here's mine. But in Northern Ontario and year round with four seasons, and the four seasons would be no matter where you are on the planet, they would create four seasons. Everything would be solar, electric. Every building, every house would have solar, and we'd live off the grid, of course. Babcock Farm in Florida was the closest I could get to showing a picture of what I'd wish for. No smoke burning. Smoke causes lung damage and cancer. And if the Iroquois Indians had not massacred the Hurons, they were dying anyway from consumption, lung damage, cancer, because of their lifestyle of long houses. And inside they had all night long and all day long fire log burning inside. And they were poisoning themselves. And in my community, every child, with the help of the community, would have a little teepee, and they would camp out in a teepee. And in the winter, they would build an igloo and camp out in the igloo. Actually, I had that as a child. And it's one of the nice memories that I do have. The city would be at the site of a mountain like Capriol, Ontario, only there'd be no gas, diesel, oil operated anything. Everything would be solar electric powered. No sewage toxic ponds. All sewage would be turned into fertilizer and used. No lawns, just organic, free from chemicals. Food gardens, all edible fruit, vegetables, and flowers that produce food. You can eat flowers, yes. And there would be absolutely no chemicals, 100% chemical free. Free playground for all ages. Games that promote creative thinking, exercise safe and easy for all. Swings for everyone, from babies to adults. Best outdoor activity for all muscles from head to toe. Yes, I've stayed from being a cripple despite my Parkinsonism because of swings. It uses everything, your whole body. Such a simple little thing, a swing. And it's amazing. And it would have climbing and sliding and merry-go-rounds and seesaws and education hut with a documentary that would promote and show the stories of why diseases are caused by smoke, toxic hydrocarbons, gas, oil, and diesel. Children would be encouraged to help each other learn, and teenagers working with helping out 2 hours a day with humanitarian causes, helping little children learn. School and education would be free, but each child given special tests to discover what their true talents are, encouraged to be educated in something they are actually good at, as well as training in cooking, sewing, designing, hygiene, all art forms, higher learning in technology, science, math, mechanics, woodworking crafts. All disease education would include diet for disease prevention and control. And my research, Okra Diet for All, would be published and in part of the school library. Yeah, well, that's kind of a tall order, but prophets said to me that 200 years from now, my work would save the life of millions of children. So if any of that's true, then it would be published in my city. All education into history would be the truth, not white man's current bullshit. All schools would start at 9 a.m. And I'm going to leave off here because I had to cut out and I redid it. But school would be from 9 to 4. No exceptions allowed unless you're sick, and then you'd be in quarantine. And they would have all lunch would be on the premises, organic, vegetarian, or vegan. And I'll go into the next video immediately. Well, okay, I'm going to try to pick up where I left off. Free playground. Yes, all schools would start at 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Lunch on the premises would be a healthy, organic vegetarian um, or vegan, but making sure that they were combined for proper protein. And education would include 3 languages, 3 minimum. English and French mandatory, and an option 3rd language. And the teachers would be volunteers from the community, such as a Finnish woman would offer to teach Finnish, or a Spanish woman, Spanish, whatever. Plus all art forms, music, dance, theater. Now I'm talking from grade 1 to 12. Singing, song and poetry writing, playwriting, how to create their own movies with the GoPro video and uploading to social media platforms to create money for their school, sports, and playgrounds. Farms would be chemical free, all controlled, with no residue from fertilizers would be allowed to contaminate any rivers or lakes. They would have to develop a technology to maintain that the fertilizer stays on the land where it belongs. Trains would not be run by diesel. I don't know how, I have no idea how they do that, but if they can go to Mars, science could figure it out. Year-round resort by a mountain such as Capriol would look like this. It would have zip lines, spring, summer, and fall, paddle boating. Everything would be designed to create exercise. And paddle car races for all ages. Walking trails. Now, trails would all be individual, and there would be no dogs allowed to roam free, not on a leash. Clean water to swim in with no blue algae, because the farms wouldn't be allowed to destroy all 300 lakes like they've done in Northern Ontario, and they're doing all over the world. Forest department would monitor closely, and no lumbering company would be allowed to demolish an entire forest like they're doing now. They would be allowed to take out mature trees, and they would have to replant with oxygen-producing hardwood and maple trees, not pine and evergreens, because they produce toxic acids and no oxygen. The money generated from tourism of a year-round would pay for all the requirements, and there would be no taxes on the land. And all facilities would be free. And there would be no gambling, but everyone from grade 1 to college would be educated in how to invest in the stock market, real estate, and new businesses. And profits made from such investments would be taxed 20%, and this would be put back into the community, supporting all community needs. And there would be no exceptions. Okay, 20% would be considered part of your expenses. There wouldn't be any of this, oh, well, I made $1 million, but I spent $1 million to make it. None of that bullshit like we have now. Voting would be entirely democratic, social. All leaders would be voted, but unlike now, all council and all members of government would have the right to vote against their leader. All votes would have to be nonpartisan. None of this supporting a dictator like we do now. And no one would be allowed to engage in a smear campaign of any kind. And it would include voting for the police chief, fire chief, and all judges. None would be for life. They would be by merit, once every 5 years, and all campaigns would be limited to advertising with a cap of no more than 10,000 each. And that includes prime minister, president, whatever. None of this millions of dollars in campaigns. None of that baloney. Government staff would be to a minimum and not allowed to rake off taxpayers' money with huge benefits that nobody else gets. No union would be allowed to create an infringement on the free will of the people as a whole by sabotaging the electric vehicle and railway system like they're doing now and have been doing for the last 100 years. Any industry that damages the roads or environment will be forced to pay to replenish and not allowed off the hook by faking bankruptcy laws. No, thank you. No election campaign to last more than 4 months. Anyone engaging in dictatorship or selfish infractions like Trump and McCarthy, they would be exposed for what they really are, and they and their followers who dare to support such dangerous behavior should be banned from the community for life. All laws must be open. Secret filing banned. And no right to sever joint tenancy without spousal or joint tenancy's consent. Otherwise, by court and jury, not a judge, a jury would decide. All fraud, title theft, mortgage fraud treated as criminal, charged by police investigation. No victim should be subjected to civil courts and personal bankruptcy as a result of such corruption, like what happened to me and my mother. And I put that all up on YouTube. All criminals of all said crimes will be banned to the wilderness. Yes, banned to the wilderness. Anyone caught putting trash anywhere, banned for life. Well, up until the age of 16, they would be trained not to do such a thing. They would be forced to have to pick it all up. Every time there was trash, the community would have to go out and pick it up, and they would have security cameras everywhere to make sure that nobody got away with it. All trash would be recycled, no exceptions. Products that create too much trash would be banned from the community. There would be no jails. All drugs and alcohol addiction treated in a hospital environment and sent to work on a farm for 1 year. 1 year on a farm. You know, I'll tell you a little story. Back in 1990, I think it was, somewhere around there, or 87, I'm not sure. The Salvation Army, too bad they didn't have one for women, but they had for men a program where they sent the alcoholics and the drug addicts to a farm up on top of Blue Mountain somewhere, and they were there for a year. Of course, they also were very religious. I don't approve of worshiping anything born on the planet, but we won't get into that right now. But yeah, that's where I got the idea from, the Salvation Army in Collingwood. What a beautiful program that was. Any drug dealer would be punished by being banned to the wilderness. Yes, throw them out in the wilderness, up in the Northwest Territories in the wilderness, with no help whatsoever. All serial rapists and serial killers and murderers of children would be put down like the wild beast that they are. We would not pay to keep such monsters alive. Anyone who did murder in self-defense would be given extensive therapy. All mental illness would be in a hospital, hospice environment, extensive therapies under careful nursing care, and helped to be a useful, creative being, but not allowed to roam the streets unattended. They would be given diet, exercise, and creative opportunities, and drugs safely monitored or developed so they would not be like zombies, but they would be not given the right to harm others by their sick behavior like they're doing now. And I'm going to mention Kanye West, that son of a bitch. Just because he's a multimillionaire or a billionaire, he's doing so much harm to his own community. It's disgusting, shameful. He won't take his drugs. Well, typical of schizophrenics, they won't take their drugs. That's why they have to be under supervision. No, they can never be completely allowed to roam free, because they don't care what happens to anybody but themselves and their stupid little program and being creative, yada, yada. No, that would not be tolerated. Now, anyone who steals at any age would be put into extensive therapy, but if they continued past the age of 16 into such behavior, they would be banned from the community. Any child who bullies or shows violence at any age would be put into extensive therapy, taught anger management, educated into helping others weaker than themselves, with counsel into the root cause of their behavior. Now, some may even be from allergies. Yes, I've seen that. I helped a number of children. They were allergic to white bread, and it was causing violence. It's the, white bread is toxic, and it's a chemical, and white sugar. And yeah, but we would have we could easily have the technology to register in the brain what's happening with the various foods. None of these stupid needles, and if you get a rash, that malarkey. Oh, don't get me started. We're so stupid. All right, where was I? Okay, any child bully, allergies. Okay, now any parent, yes, and both my parents would fall into this category. Any parent who abuses a child would be sterilized and not allowed to have more children. And then they would be banned out of the community. And the children would not be in a foster welfare care, but put up for adoption. And they would be in a caring, loving home with one or two parents. In other words, single parents would certainly qualify. No sexual orientation discrimination allowed. Racism, hatred, not allowed. Any repeated offenders would be banned and forced to live in wilderness on their own with no help whatsoever. That's right. We don't pay to keep these people in jail. To hell with them. All sex offenders banned for life to wilderness with no help whatsoever. Anyone who kills for profit or inheritance, all wealth would be taken and put into the community, and as well they would be banned to the wilderness. We don't pay to keep killers alive. Trails for biking, including adult tricycles, would be separate from walking trails. All roads would have no toxic fumes, as everything would be electric. And they would be wide enough to allow for a rollerblading lane, a bike and tricycle lane, and a separate walking lane. The city would be designed for people, not vehicles. Swimming lessons would begin as a baby, and no one would be in danger of drowning. If anyone has an allergy, they would be protected and the community educated to keep safe, include children and people with allergies. Vegetarian diet would be encouraged but not forced on anyone. However, starting in kindergarten, children would be given the opportunity through all grades 1 to 12 with their school, and they would visit a free-range farm. All commercial corporations' farms would be banned. And after spending time with a calf, a lamb, a baby pig, a little deer, and a baby moose, they will be less likely to want to eat one when they grow up. Fishing would be by law okay, but everyone must wear a life jacket, whether they can swim or not, and only by canoe and kayak, and no motor-operated vehicles unless electric. Now, I learned to swim as a baby, and I can swim like a fish, but allergies mean I cannot take in any water in my eyes or my mouth, so I use a tube. Now, this one is a biggie. You know, our time is running out on the planet. Yep, our time is running out. That's a little watch that Dan bought me one day. Now, health agencies like Canada would be dismantled. They're just too corrupt to keep. And a new For the People agency would be connected to all world health agencies, and all science would be free. None of this hoarding it for yourself. Everything would be connected through Google. And all world health agencies and laws that would include the right to know what is in your food, air, water, and beverages, and a list of all ingredients on all labels, and no chemical toxic additives would be allowed, and no canola oil. Canola would be banned. Aspartame would be banned, and yada yada. Disease prevention would be a part of all medical training and not allowed to be corrupted by drug and genetic engineering corporations. All countries that cause disease like China has done for the past 60 years, all their products would be banned. And no wet market slaughtering of animals or eating of bats and wildlife would be tolerated. And such activity will be considered first-degree murder and treated as such, because the disease they promote by doing that, kill. And they would be banned into the wilderness, and their countries would be completely banned. Because we made China rich, taking their cheap goddamn products. And look at what they have done to the world. COVID-19 is just the beginning, but they've been at it for 60 years, and we knew, and we didn't do a thing about it. That's our government corruption. Greed, greed. Give me the money. Give me the money. No, we ban all people like that to the wilderness. However, despite the ignorance of their country, we should welcome all immigrants openly, freely, without prejudice, providing they adhere to our community standards. And I'm going to, in particular, mention the Hindus. They would not be allowed to continue with the practice of polluting water, believing it can clean itself. They must be educated and willing to accept the science that poisoning water is a criminal offense. And they would get the same treatment. If they refuse to accept that and they poison water, ban them to the wilderness. No exceptions. Education would include diet for disease, healthy lifestyle, healthy exercise, especially dancing and cross-country skiing. Those would be the two main sports starting in kindergarten. How to stay safe and wear proper clothing for camping to avoid mosquito and tick-borne disease, including virus disease. All vaccines would be mandatory or you're banned from the community. During any pandemic, such as now, COVID-19, they must wear a mask. And anyone refusing to do so will automatically be treated as a murderer, criminal, and banned for life to the wilderness with no help whatsoever. You want to kill somebody? Go for it. Not in my world. All sick would be immediately quarantined and given proper medical treatment without cost to anyone. Anyone who disregards and endangers the community would be banned to wilderness and treated as a murderer since they spread disease and kill. All sports would be cross-country skiing, downhill skiing, skating, sliding. That's winter sports I'm talking, tobogganing. And there would be hundreds of finished saunas and dipping into rivers and nearby lakes. And children at age 3 would be given all equipment all the way up to age 16 for all winter sports with proper education on safety And the first thing in skiing safety is learn how to sit down. Go into the fall and sit. Don't stand. Sit. Go into the fall. And don't injure yourself. And all trails would have beginners, semi-intermediate, intermediate, and expert, which actually they have at Capriol now. The only problem is that at the very end, you go into this filthy, dirty, sewage, toxic pond. That kind of stuff would be banned. No toxic sewage like that would be allowed. It would be recycled in a proper facility. And not put into the drains either. Totally recycled. And they would be equipped with proper equipment and safety, and taught how to dress properly with layers to stay warm no matter what the temperature is. I go out at 40 below and I'm never cold, ever, because ski instructors taught me how to dress, and that kind of would be taught. And no sitting on your butt machines would be allowed, except for the crippled and the paraplegic, and they would be electrically operated. So skidoos, there would be electric skidoo trails, but not if you're healthy. No. If you're healthy, you're going to paddle. You're going to paddle your way. You're going to exercise. Physical fitness would be the number one priority in my community. Now, I may have left something out, but I think that just about covers my idea of utopia. What's yours? Yeah, well, 200 years from now, there won't be any polar caps. There won't be any winter. So they will have the technology, of course. We've got air conditioning. They'll create a winter sports in a bubble. I have to include that because there won't be anything like that. And we won't have half the land because they'll be underwater. But we will also recycle the ocean's water and take the salt out. So it could all be done, but there would be no jails. For each crime, there would be a therapy facility, as long as it didn't involve killing. But any kind of killing, and that includes spreading disease, banned to the wilderness. No masks, banned to the wilderness. You're on your own. Go kill yourself, but you're not going to kill somebody else. Yeah. I once had a prophet, a psychic, say to me, "You're not from Earth." I said, "No, I'm from the planet Iblis." I-B-L-I-S, Iblis. And 50 years later, I met a scientist who said, "You remember how you used to talk about the planet Iblis, Trudy? And they sent you here to try to educate us dummies, us real sick, psychopathic people?" I said, yeah, I know. Silly. He said, no, they just found a planet and it's called Iblis. Just saying. Over and out. I sure hope I get a good winter this year. I don't know. I really don't think I'm going to survive COVID-19, but if anybody finds this, maybe somebody will try to develop a community like this. I certainly hope so. Because the one we have on this planet, I think the closest is Norway. But don't quote me. I could be wrong. But what they've done in the ocean and their oil drilling puts them in the category of no. not good. But some of what I'm talking about, they do have, but not enough. Okay. See you in the Twilight Zone.